When Sarah Thompson and her 8-year-old daughter, Lily, vanished without a trace, the quiet town of Maplewood was plunged into fear. What began as a desperate search for two missing loved ones would soon uncover secrets no one could have imagined. It was an ordinary morning in the quiet town of Maplewood, a place where everyone knew their neighbors, and the streets rarely held more than the sound of birds or distant car engines. But that morning, the calm was shattered by unsettling news. A mother and her young daughter had disappeared. The woman in her mid-30s had been described as friendly and responsible, while her daughter, only 8 years old, was known for her laughter and curious nature. Their sudden absence alarmed neighbors, who found it unusual that neither had been seen for days. The mother's car was still parked in the driveway, untouched, and the front door of their modest home remained locked from the inside, showing no signs of forced entry. Police were notified immediately, and officers arrived to search the house, hoping for any clues that might explain the disappearance. Inside, the home appeared normal. There were no signs of struggle, no broken objects, no overturned furniture. Their backpacks were gone, but personal items like toys and school supplies remained, suggesting they had not left voluntarily. The absence of a ransom note, threats, or even a hint of warning only deepened the mystery. Every corner of the home was carefully inspected, yet investigators found nothing to indicate who might have taken them or why. The sense of unease in the neighborhood grew with each passing hour. As the search extended beyond the house, volunteers and law enforcement combed nearby streets, parks, and wooded areas. Local children were kept inside, while parents exchanged worried whispers about what could have happened. Each unanswered question only heightened fear as theories about kidnappings or accidents began to circulate. Flyers were posted across town, urging anyone with information to come forward. The mother and daughter were described in detail. Photographs displayed their faces, hoping to catch the attention of someone who might have seen them. Despite these efforts, no eyewitnesses came forward, and no trace of their movements could be established. The days passed slowly, marked by the hum of police radios and the quiet murmur of concerned neighbors. Family members, devastated and desperate for answers, pleaded with authorities to search every possible location. Social media buzzed with speculation, and the story quickly spread beyond Maplewood, attracting attention from journalists and online communities. Some suggested the pair might have run away, but those close to the family rejected the idea outright, insisting that neither the mother nor the daughter would leave without telling anyone. The notion of voluntary disappearance seemed impossible given their close relationships and strong bonds with friends and relatives. As night fell over the town, the absence of any leads created a growing sense of dread. Streets that had once felt safe now seemed shadowed, and the townspeople could not shake the feeling that something terrible had happened. Each morning brought renewed searches and mounting anxiety, yet every effort seemed to lead to dead ends. The case quickly became more than a missing persons investigation. It began to feel like a puzzle with pieces scattered and hidden, a mystery that refused to reveal its solution. Fear lingered in every corner of Maplewood, where the quiet streets now held a chilling question. What had happened to the mother and daughter, and where were they now? The search for the missing mother and daughter grew more urgent with each passing day. Local police coordinated with state authorities, forming teams to cover the surrounding forests, rivers, and abandoned properties. Volunteers from the community joined, carrying flashlights, maps, and determination, walking tirelessly along trails and through dense underbrush. Every footstep was careful, every sound in the woods amplified by the tension in the air. The searchers were driven by a mixture of hope and fear, knowing that time was critical, yet aware that each hour without progress only deepened the mystery. Officers expanded the investigation to include roads, parking lots, and public areas, speaking with anyone who might have seen the mother and daughter. They interviewed neighbors, co-workers, and friends, attempting to trace their last known movements. Surveillance footage from local businesses was reviewed, showing the mother entering a grocery store 2 days before she disappeared, shopping quietly and seemingly unaware of any danger. The footage gave a small window into her final days but offered no indication of what would follow. Authorities noticed nothing unusual, no hint of threat or unusual interaction. The lack of any obvious lead was frustrating, yet the search continued, relentless and methodical. Days turned into a week, and the community's anxiety grew. Families who had once strolled the streets without concern now watched each other closely, whispering fears of abductions or accidents. Local news outlets reported constantly, highlighting the efforts of the search teams and the desperation of the family. Flyers and posters were distributed further afield, hoping to reach someone who might have seen the pair outside Maplewood. Social media amplified the story, with residents sharing photographs and descriptions, hoping that someone somewhere held a vital clue. Despite the widespread attention, no new tips led investigators closer to finding them, leaving the town suspended in uncertainty. Then, a breakthrough arrived in the form of a hiker discovering a small item near a trail deep in the surrounding woods. It was a piece of clothing that belonged unmistakably to the daughter, a bright, recognizable jacket she often wore. The discovery sent shockwaves through the community and the investigative teams. Its location suggested that the missing pair had been led into the forest intentionally, perhaps guided or forced along the hidden paths that few knew existed. Search teams immediately concentrated their efforts around the trail, combing the underbrush, checking shallow streams, and marking any area that might contain additional clues. The woods, once quiet and peaceful, had become a scene of tension and urgency, every shadow and rustling leaf fueling the fear that danger still lingered nearby. Authorities intensified their efforts, bringing in tracking dogs and aerial support to cover more ground. They marked each point of interest carefully, examining footprints, disturbed soil, and broken branches, trying to piece together a path through the dense forest. Volunteers called in sightings of strangers or unusual activity in remote areas, hoping any detail could provide a lead. Yet the forest seemed to hold its secrets tightly, a maze that resisted every attempt to uncover them. As days passed, the hikers' discovery remained the only concrete evidence of the daughter's presence, a single thread in a tangled and frightening mystery that had transformed a peaceful town into a place of fear and uncertainty. The discovery of human remains sent shockwaves through Maplewood, confirming the worst fears of the community. Forensic teams worked meticulously, uncovering a shallow grave in a secluded area of the forest near the trail where the daughter's jacket had been found. The remains were partially covered by leaves and dirt, hidden carefully enough that anyone passing by would have missed them. Identification confirmed the identity of the mother, a revelation that left investigators and townspeople stunned. The knowledge that one of the missing had met a violent end made the urgency to find the daughter even more desperate. Authorities examined the scene for evidence, but the grave offered few clues. There were no weapons left behind, no clear signs of a struggle beyond the act of burial itself. Forensic specialists analyzed soil samples and the surrounding area, searching for footprints, tire tracks, or any trace that could lead to the person responsible. Each detail was painstakingly documented, with every twig and patch of disturbed earth recorded in photographs and reports. The forest, once a place of search and hope, now seemed sinister, holding secrets that had remained hidden until this grim revelation. Investigators turned their attention to the mother's past, seeking anyone with a motive to harm her. They discovered that she had maintained friendships with neighbors and colleagues, none of whom seemed capable of violence. But as they dug deeper, a pattern emerged that pointed to someone she had trusted, a neighbor with a history of suspicious behavior. This person had lived in the area for years, blending seamlessly into the community, yet small inconsistencies in their story and background raised questions. Authorities discovered previous minor arrests and unreported incidents that hinted at a darker side, the kind of history that might escalate to violence if triggered by an opportunity. Despite the growing list of potential suspects, investigators faced a frustrating lack of direct evidence linking anyone to the crime. They interviewed the neighbor extensively, comparing alibis, timelines, and possible motives. The interviews revealed small contradictions, moments where stories didn't align with known facts, yet nothing concrete emerged. Investigators also reviewed phone records, emails, and social media interactions, hoping to find a communication that could expose the perpetrator. Every message and call was analyzed for signs of coercion, threats, or unusual patterns, but each lead seemed to fade before revealing a full picture. As the investigation continued, the shadow over Maplewood grew heavier. The discovery of the mother, S, remains forced the town to confront the reality of violence in a place they had always considered safe. Schools and businesses remained open, but a quiet unease lingered in the air. The daughter's disappearance remained a haunting question, a thread of hope and fear that investigators could not unravel. The image of the mother lying in that hidden grave became a symbol of urgency, a reminder that time was slipping away. Every day that passed without finding the daughter added to the tension, and the search teams pressed on, determined to uncover the truth behind a crime that had shattered the peace of an entire town. As the investigation into the mother's death deepened, new layers of complexity began to emerge. Detectives discovered that the mother had received subtle but persistent threats in the weeks leading up to her disappearance. Notes, emails, and even small messages left on social media hinted at someone watching her every move. At first, these warnings seemed harmless or coincidental, dismissed as the paranoia of a busy mother juggling work and family life. But in retrospect, investigators realized these were carefully placed signals meant to intimidate and manipulate. The pattern suggested a calculated effort by someone close enough to observe her routines without drawing attention. Further scrutiny of the neighbor, who had previously raised suspicion, revealed more troubling details. Records showed a history of minor offenses, including stalking and harassment, but none severe enough to trigger significant legal consequences. Yet the pattern of behavior fit the emerging profile of the perpetrator, someone methodical, secretive, and willing to escalate when an opportunity arose. Surveillance footage and witness statements, when re-examined, suggested the neighbor had been near the mother S home and the trail where the jacket was found at unusual times. While these observations were circumstantial, they painted a chilling portrait of someone who had blended seamlessly into the community while hiding a dangerous obsession. Investigators also uncovered signs that the mother had been trying to protect herself and her daughter without revealing the full extent to anyone else. She had changed routines, varied her travel routes, and limited her social interactions, all subtle precautions that had gone unnoticed by friends and neighbors. The realization that she had sensed a threat but was unable to fully escape it added a layer of tragedy to the case. Every move she had made to safeguard her family was carefully documented by the perpetrator, who had learned her patterns and used them to plan the abduction and eventual murder. The investigation took another dark turn when authorities reviewed local store surveillance near the wooded trail. Footage revealed a shadowy figure carrying a bundle, moving toward the area where the mother's remains were later discovered. The person's identity remained unclear, but their movements indicated careful planning. They had chosen secluded paths, avoided main roads, and timed their actions to minimize the chance of being seen. Every frame of video suggested an individual who knew the area well, someone familiar with the woods and the routines of the people in the community. The chilling precision of these actions confirmed that this was not a crime of impulse, but a calculated plan executed over weeks. Amid the mounting evidence, investigators faced the unsettling reality that the daughter might still be alive. Each discovery, from the threatening messages to the surveillance footage, pointed to the possibility that the perpetrator had kept her hidden, perhaps nearby, waiting for the right moment to use her for leverage or control. The tension in Maplewood intensified as the search teams refocused on abandoned cabins, hidden trails, and secluded properties surrounding the town. The forest, once the site of initial hope, had transformed into a labyrinth of fear and uncertainty. Every lead, every shadow, every faint sound was now scrutinized for signs of the missing girl, as investigators raced against time to uncover a truth that was as terrifying as it was elusive. Months passed with little progress, and the search for the missing daughter had become a relentless pursuit of hope and fear. Investigators had followed countless leads, examined dozens of abandoned properties, and interviewed neighbors, acquaintances, and even strangers who might have had contact with the mother or child. Each dead end only heightened the tension, leaving the town of Maplewood suspended in anxiety. The forest remained a haunting presence, dense and unyielding, concealing secrets that no one could predict. Every rustle of leaves or distant movement sparked renewed vigilance among search teams. A breakthrough finally arrived when an unexpected tip led authorities to a remote, derelict cabin on the outskirts of town. The structure had been abandoned for years, hidden among overgrown brush and tall trees, a place that few would venture into willingly. Officers approached cautiously, aware that the location could hold both danger and answers. Inside, the cabin was dark and suffocating, filled with debris, dust, and the remnants of long-forgotten items. Amid the disorder, search teams discovered a small figure huddled in the corner, alive, frightened, and visibly traumatized. The girl, the missing daughter, had survived, her captivity a grim reminder of the danger that had loomed over the town for months. The girl's condition was fragile, both physically and emotionally. She had been kept isolated, deprived of normal contact, and subjected to an environment of fear. Medical personnel and child protection specialists worked carefully to stabilize her, while investigators documented the scene, collecting evidence that would later be crucial in prosecuting the perpetrator. The cabin held traces of the person who had orchestrated the crime, belongings, tools, and subtle signs of planning that revealed the extent of the calculated captivity. It became clear that the neighbor, previously suspected, had meticulously controlled the situation, keeping the girl hidden while eliminating the mother to prevent interference. Arrests followed swiftly after the discovery. The neighbor was taken into custody, and investigators presented the evidence collected from the cabin, the surveillance footage, and the threatening messages. The full scope of the crime unfolded, a premeditated scheme fueled by obsession. A plan executed with patience and a chilling understanding of human behavior. The arrest brought relief to the town, but also left a lingering unease. Maplewood, once known for its quiet streets and familiar faces, had been confronted with a darkness that had existed quietly in plain sight. As the daughter began the slow process of recovery, the town grappled with the aftermath of the crime. Families spoke quietly among themselves. Schools offered counseling, and authorities reinforced the importance of vigilance and community awareness. The mother's death remained a source of grief and reflection, a reminder of the fragility of life and the hidden dangers that can exist even in seemingly safe surroundings. The girl's survival, however, became a symbol of resilience, of hope amidst tragedy. Maplewood slowly returned to its routines, but the memory of the months spent searching, fearing, and uncovering the horrifying truth remained etched into the town's consciousness. The story of the mother and daughter became a lasting lesson, a narrative of loss, survival, and the courage it takes to confront the darkest corners of human behavior.